All right, guys, welcome to our talk today on simplifying your workflow. My name is Bruce from Printavo.
My name is Steven Farag from Campus Inc.
So we're super excited to be able to do this. This is kind of stuff that we talk about and just discuss and read about all the time. Now, this is me on the left, of course. My background is in technology. I've been really involved in startups. I'm a software engineer. I started Printavo because I was running a screen printing shop just like a lot of you guys and gals here. Now, as we were growing, it was super difficult to be able to manage our workflow, right? So keeping track of invoicing when things are due, and I wanted to be out of the office and working with customers while production was in the office, moving things forward. And I didn't like the current solutions out there. So what I did was I ended up starting to hire a software developer to help manage that for me and build out a solution. Well, he scammed me, and I never got that money back. And so what I learned is that I had to do it myself to get this kind of started. And so what I did is I built Printavo to help be simple but easy shop management software for shops to be able to use. That was about 8 years ago. Fast forwarding to today, we help shops all over the world be able to manage their workflow, and it's really, really exciting.
Cool. So my name is Steven Farag. I joined the printing industry about 5 or 6 years ago. Now, I didn't start pulling a squeegee or anything like that in a garage. I started selling apparel out of my dorm room, creating viral events on the university's campus, more geared to drinking events, more or less. But I sold enough shirts to pay my way through college and ended up buying the company out that printed for me in school. I joined them in business, and I joined a company called Campus Sportswear. It was a great, profitable business run by 2 individuals about twice my age, and they were doing everything in-house. They were in literally the same facility since they started in 1947. And if you can go to the next page, this is basically what I walked into. They were doing everything kind of old school, using vellum, and we were bringing up shirts through a forklift through the back of the building. And I saw it as an opportunity to take something, to use kind of my degree, my experience, my marketing, and scale it, right? And fast forward, now 4 years later, we moved out of our facility. We have students across the country selling for us. We have multiple automatics, embroidery, DTG, and we've taken our business out of last century and really drove it forward. I bring this invoice up because does anyone know what this is? Does anyone still use carbon copy? Okay, that's what we were doing, and they were doing it really, really well, and they were doing a great job. But the biggest issue we saw was that we weren't able to scale our business because we didn't want to let go, right? We didn't want to let go. Does anyone ever feel like you go through the day on the business, you do everything, you deal with all the customers, you print all the shirts, whatever, deliver, 5 o'clock hits, and you're like, thank God I'm done. Right? And that feeling right there, that hamster wheel, it goes over and over and over again, day in and day out, day in and day out. And I realized that unless I decided to stop what I was doing and actually work on the business instead of in the business, I wasn't going to be able to scale that. And so that's kind of my backstory about, where we started, where we're going, what our goals are in the future as far as being more of a technology company rather than this old just shop that used to print.
So everybody knows what this is, right? Almost everybody probably has one. It's the Amazon Echo, or otherwise known as Alexa. You talk to it, you can change the temperature in your house, you can play music, you can set reminders and timers and all this really cool stuff. And it interconnects everything for you. And it even start to be a little bit more suggestive and learns from the things that you ask it and the times. These kinds of things of, how we order Jimmy John's and it comes in 15 minutes, how we call an Uber and it's downstairs and it's ready when we need it. Those kinds of things are really exciting and happening in a very progressive area. A lot comes out of the Valley, a lot comes out of New York. But what I'm excited about is the fact that I feel like there's so much more opportunity to add automation into our businesses. So that way we can help to grow, not just having been a super large business, but also a small business that is bootstrapped and running off the backs of you guys. So this is exactly what we're going to be talking about today and trying to give very hard tactical tips for you to take and start applying on Monday to be able to apply to your business.
Everyone came to Long Beach on a mission to do something. Everyone walked into here with a goal. And one of the first things that you've done correctly by coming to Long Beach is stepping away from your business. and deciding to really work on it, right? And that's something when you guys all leave today, like you have to promise yourself that you're going to continue doing that. Like when everyone goes home tomorrow, like hungover or not, you're going to feel slightly rejuvenated, that you're going to set your goals straight and really start to work on things. The last thing you want to do is make Long Beach like the start and stop of that kind of exercise, right? And so as everyone's here on a mission, whether it's to buy new equipment, whether it's to figure out how to market, whether it's to do all these things, like you have to start doing that regularly, and that practice is super, super, super important. So that's it. That's got to be the number one thing, is you work on your business, not in your business, right? Go ahead, Bruce.
Who feels kind of stuck, like Steve was talking about before, where you have your to-do list at the beginning of the day, but you don't really get to it until 6 p.m.? Right? I do too. I mean, I feel that exact same way. And part of this year, I said 2019, it has to be a change. I have to get good at automating. I have to get good at delegating. I have to get good at trusting the team so I can be at events like this, meeting people like you guys, and be away from the business and trust that everything still runs. Whether something up happens, I mean, obviously you guys deal with a lot more of volume of shirts or garments. We deal with a lot more of, call it server requests. And so it's the same concept, same small business ownership mentality. We all started from the ground and the bottom floor, and we all start to transition off into an ownership mentality, which is the interesting kind of psychological change that we go through together. And these are some tips that we brought to that. Okay, so first is documenting the workflow, right? This is physically writing down on a piece of paper your workflow and your step process. Have you ever seen this type of schematic? Probably electrical engineers are very familiar, right? It goes through, and then there's also points where it splits off and different things happen. This is the exact same thing that we have to do back home. So we need to write these things down as far as our workflow and understand that this is not set. Right? This is not what it's going to be probably even 6 months from now. This is what it is right now today, and so that I can create our playbook, right? A coach, every person has their playbook for their team to be able to execute on. You guys are the coaches, and this is your playbook so that people can execute on your vision. Now, as things happen, and art's approved, not's approved, reasons why, quotes approved, not's approved, back orders this, reason why, the yes or no, all of that blown up and expanded and created in little details to be able to create that repeatable process. Now, as far as repeatable processes go, I think it's a really great thing to start thinking about. Instead of a printing business, you're a manufacturing, a very supply chain focused type of business, right? And what they do on a bigger scale, the Teslas and the Fords and the Toyotas, is they focus on creating a repeatable process that you can keep using over and over and over. And that's the same applicable concept that you can use in your business back at home. And what this does is create that process so you don't have to be there, right? Because no matter what happens, they know where to go, and each person is kind of owning their little section or their roles. And this is what we're a team of 9 back in Chicago, and this is the thing that we've created so that I can be gone for weeks at a time. Sales continues to run, support continues to run, engineering continues to run, product development continues to run, and I can continue to do what I feel are higher value items to help continue pushing our business forward.
So does anyone here like write out their workflow? Has anyone ever documented it? Does anyone ever have any good tools or anything like that? Nothing? Yeah? Any good tools you would recommend for documenting your workflow or writing it all out? Pen and paper maybe? I don't know.
That's a great one, but we also like Confluence.
Confluence? Okay. I use a tool called draw.io. It's like a Google Drive add-in. It creates like a flow chart. I started by doing it on a whiteboard in my office, and then eventually I started mapping it. And the one thing you have to realize is your workflow is going to change, right? I use this analogy as like Jimmy John's versus a sandwich shop, okay? A sandwich shop makes sandwiches. Jimmy John's is a multi-billion company that happens to make sandwiches, okay? And that's how you have to think about your company is like you are an engine or a machine, right? I think like I learned from a lot of people in the room right now, like Justin who runs Oklahoma Shirt Company does millions of dollars in subscription t-shirts around the globe with the word Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. And to be able to do that, like the logistics and the extreme organizational structure you're going to need to do that, I think it's as extreme as organizing by zip code, so post offices don't rip you off. I mean, just a crazy, crazy, crazy amount of organizational structure, and realizing that like the workflow that maybe Justin used 3 years ago is much different than the one he uses today. And so your workflow is going to change, right? Has anyone seen the movie The Founder, the McDonald's movie? Okay, my favorite scene in the McDonald's movie is when they're almost doing like a step dance with the tape on the ground on where the fries go and the milkshakes and how it gets to the right space as quickly as possible. That's the difference between running, this billion-dollar enterprise versus a hot dog or a hamburger stand, right? They're worried about the process and the people and the way they talk to people every single time. And so while you have your workflow, your people are also the most important asset to that workflow. And the training that you provide for your people is super, super, super important, right? And so the best quote I got is, act like the business you want to become, not the business you are today, okay? And so yes, Jimmy John's, if you ever has anyone seen Jimmy John's in training? They literally have a mirror, and a guy stands behind them and times their sandwiches being made and tells them if they put too much lettuce on. I mean, just extreme amounts of control with their organizational structure to make sure their product is perfect every single time. And that's why it is. They practice it. They practice it. They practice it. So to act like the business you want to become, not the business you are today, it might seem a little cheesy to hold a staff meeting when there's only 2 of you. But actually putting that on the calendar and saying, okay guys, every Monday at 11 a.m. we are going to have a staff meeting, and every third Thursday of the month we're going to go out to dinner to do this, this, and this, and talk about goals, right? And do some extra training. And who here has salespeople? Do you ever practice talking on the phone with your salespeople? Actually practice, ring, ring, hey Bruce, I'd like to order some shirts, and role-playing that, and getting better and better in the way that your people talk on the phone. Because what you'll find is most mistakes can be caught if your people putting in the order do their job correctly, right? Most people can do you can get much better orders if the person taking the order knows what they're doing. And what I find, even after years of having people in my shop taking orders, they still can get better, they still can get better, they still can get better. Because the last thing you want to do is, you want to scale your business, you want to hire a bunch of people. What happens if you hire a bunch of people and you don't know how to work with them? HR, what is that, right? How do I pay them? I don't know. You have to start practicing it now, even when you're small, because when you grow, you'll just start adding to the puzzle. And it'll be super simple to just put them into your payroll system and give them their employee handbook. Who here has an employee handbook? Even if you have 2 employees, have an employee handbook and spend a little time, and it might cost you a little bit of money, but to have that structure with your employees. We all talk about delegating to our employees, and how many of you guys close down your shop when you go on vacation? Okay, a couple of you. I've seen that in the Facebook groups, and it's I just shut down my shop so I don't have to worry about anything. What that basically means is that you're so necessary in your business that when you leave, your business is out of control. You don't have control of your business. And so in order to start doing that and practicing that, you have to believe in delegation. So last summer, I finally got to take a 2-week Euro trip and really get away from the business. And it was the first time where I could, not answer my phone, not worry about anything, and enjoy my time. And I was really nervous about that because I pretty much made a list of all things that could possibly go wrong. And I was okay, well, how am I going to think through this? Who's going to do bank deposits? Right? I usually do the bank deposits. Well, the bank has to go to the bank every 2 weeks. So, me and Matt, my office manager, are okay, every Friday I need you to make the bank deposits, right? And every Thursday I'm going to need you to do this. And I made a list of all these things and I started delegating them. And we started practicing these things 2 weeks in advance because God forbid one of these things goes wrong when I'm on vacation in a different time zone. And now I just feel like an idiot because I lost control of my business. And so, by doing those things and practicing them, literally, I would go into the shop and say, all right, guys, I'm leaving for the day, and see where they fumbled. And when they would give me a phone call and say, Steven, we have this customer that's doing this and this and this, what should we do? My first question is well, pretend I'm dead, what would you guys do? And they'd say, well, I would do this and this and this. I'd say, all right, go ahead and do it. Can I refund the customer? Yeah, I trust you to do that. By giving, your employees responsibility and delegating it, and not being mad at them, making mistakes, that's actually going to liberate you from the day-to-day, right? So now I don't make bank deposits anymore. right? And if a bank deposit isn't made properly, like I know that we need to practice that to do that every Friday, right? So organizational structure is so, so important, and the people on there, like even writing out a little bit of a hierarchy and who has roles and responsibilities with that workflow are going to allow you to actually start to compartmentalize your business, if that makes sense. While you do that, the people are important, but the product is also important. So, as you're hiring employees and selling more, right, it shouldn't just turn into like chaos, right? Because if it turns into chaos, selling more does not help you. Hiring more does not help you. The product still needs to be beautiful. And the one thing we should remember as decorators is like making sure the product is great every single time. Right? Because I'm not worried about these huge competitors like Custom Ink because their product, they just don't control their product quality, unfortunately. And that's one thing we can do because we are on the ground floor is controlling our product and optimizing it. So, when I first started, we were on this long, narrow building and nothing was optimized. I mean, we had to go up and down steps. We did like dancing around each other on the presses, right? I've seen that in other shops. We did that too. And the advice I got from someone in the industry was, well, you need to move to a bigger space. Well, yeah, I know that, okay, but I can't do that today. I don't have the money or the capital to do that. My business partner said, you're not taking loans. We're going to put money in the bank, save, and pay in cash, okay? So I had to optimize every little thing I could do from the product coming in to leaving the shop. So we started making standard operating procedures. In our screen room, what does it mean to have a 110 screen and a 158 screen? Where do the 110s go? Where do the 158s go? Where do you code on two sides? Where do you code on one side, right? How long, having documentation of when the trash needs to come out, right? Having documentation for when we're using like poly ink, when we're using, standard cotton ink, right? Because if you bring people into a system that doesn't have rules, the product and the quality is just going to be up to your employees. And unfortunately in our industry, like that could be really scary. And so going through the process from when a shirt comes in to when a shirt leaves a building, what are the little steps that everyone's going to take every single time? Because it's not when things go right, it's when things go wrong, right? That you go back and say, well, what does it say on the screen? We're supposed to do 110s there, right? Why did we burn all these screens for this or this or this? White ink will not pull through there, whatever. And so optimizing your product and making sure you control product quality is very important. And it's not necessary, obviously learn from all the industry experts on how to print great shirts and how to do that, but just document everything and post it and make it public. And, I think it's Charlie Toblieb that has the Screen Printer Handbook. It's like 20 pages of how to print a shirt perfectly. And, I gave that to all my printers and said, read this, enjoy it. Like, let's take something out of it.
Awesome.
Charlie Toblieb is the consultant. He wrote a book. It's like a screen printer's handbook, and it really nails down like the who tears down a screen, who puts the screen. He actually teaches to pre-ink your screens for the day if it's doing under 100 pieces or something, so that your printers don't even have to get their hands messy, and it eliminates the amount of ink mistakes. I've seen it through the forums. We could probably put it up on our blog as long as he's okay with it. Yeah. Go ahead, Bruce.
So Steve talks about hiring and training simplification. I think training tends to be sometimes an afterthought, right? We're so busy, especially on the early days. We just need somebody to help run production. We just need someone to do the art. I just need to help grow sales. Oh, he's perfect. Just here, you manage that. I need to finish up with all these other things, right? This is laughing because did that happen? Yeah. It's common, right? You think all of your things are so much more important. I was the same way. But what I realized is that training is actually, just like spending time hiring the right person, is an investment in the business. And we don't value our time correctly, so we tend to think, I just have to hop, I gotta do this, I gotta make this sale. But that time you spent with that person empowers them to be able to help do things and take things off your plate. So it becomes an investment in them and in your company. Back at Print Hustlers Conf in Chicago this year, Justin Moore from Barrel Maker Screen Printing made a really good quote. And he said, when it hit me is then I thought, if I train them and I leave, that really sucks because I spent so much time. But if I don't train them and they end up staying, then I'm screwed. Because he also said that he sucks at firing and they just stay around. So that's the exact same thing that happens in everybody's business. And it starts with the very first person. And what we did is we actually created, you could call it a handbook type of guide for every single new hire so that they feel very special coming in and valued, and they go through all the steps, no matter what type of role. We have our engineers answering support tickets. We have our support team answering or going through demos with customers, brand new customers coming in. We actually retrain and do the same thing. So obviously there's the really great Meg workshop that Greg Kitson runs. There's M&R workshops. There's the Ryonet workshops. We actually sent our team last week to Barrel Maker's Ryonet screen printing class. They spend 2 full days learning how to screen print all the different types of processes so that they can be able to talk to customers. And engineers don't necessarily talk to customers, right? So you think that my production staff's not really talking to a customer. Why would they need to know about that aspect? But it's so important so they can have the full, well-rounded view about how our customers work and operate. And so that's what we do. And as you can see, this is kind of like our schedule. And we just created this in Google Docs. And I literally locked myself in a room so nobody could reach out. And I hammered this out with a team member of a day 1 through 5 schedule for our team. This is actually ours. So and this is to every 5-minute increment. Day 1, 10 a.m. to 10:15, office walkthrough. Bruce, where's the bathrooms? Where's the coffee? What's the code for this? Where do I find paper towels? All that kind of stuff we walk through and answer basic questions. Then the second one is Printavo one-on-one. How did it start? Why Printavo? Why Oklahoma Shortcut? Why anything? Why do they want to be a part of the family? And why did I start it? And that's so important because that just emotion about your business that you have, you want to communicate that so they feel the same care for your baby that you've been putting so much sweat and equity into for so long. We even get down to HR, how your role is important, how we talk to customers. We have a guidebook of how you say different words, emoticons, how we communicate ourselves and our brand to customers. So somebody that comes up to us at a trade show feels the same way as if I met them at their shop later. And that's how we create and build this really awesome community. We even down and get into every single tool that we use at the company. So whether or not you use the tool, we go in Intercom and Slack and Calendly and Zendesk and Google Suite. I mean, we're talking Gmail, Google Calendar, these little details to go through. Not only that, I recorded every single one that I went through on a video because my goal was to do so much documentation that I physically did not need to be there for them to be onboarded. So an existing team member could literally go through this, pull up the video, they could watch it together, answer questions, and it just keeps running and moving forward. Now, of course, I want to be there. It's important. You want to, help guide them and hold and handhold, but again, keeps going down, a recap, the rest of the tools, sales if they're based in commission, and then in-depth product workflow. And then we literally send them off to a shop. We send them down to Champaign and the Steve shops to work and be there. Again, we send everybody for retraining to the Ryonet classes. We actually flew out our whole team to this show because this is one of the biggest for textiles, and we wanted them to meet customers, understand the industry, and just have such mind-opening experience to what's going on. Of course, not cheap, and it took some time to be able to do that, but that investment is investment in people, just like you invest in equipment. It's the same thing.
By a show of hands, who brought a second person to the show this year? It's pretty cool to bring someone along.
It's awesome.
It's a great feeling, right? It's fun to go do it yourself, but it's more fun. I work with students around the country, and I brought one of our students because it's his senior year. He's shooting the thing. He's a really talented videographer, but he's done a bunch of design and sales for us. But bringing someone else, whether it's your production team, your art designer, they will grow so much more passionately about your business and want to take the same ownership that you do. And I think that's one thing I see the Printavo team do really well, and something that I try to mimic as we're trying to scale and hire and scale and hire.
Marketing automation. So as I said before, my background is in a lot of tech and startups and stuff, and a lot of the automation and marketing and really cool tools are so common to tech types of companies and startup types of companies, right? But a lot of that stuff isn't really thought of for quite a long time on the business, or on the printing side, right? We don't even think about it. I mean, I've seen so many shops that their website was built 15 years ago and never even updated, and that's just a reflection, again, of the brand. And so I wrote down a couple interesting tools here, but I wanted to get a little bit more in depth. So first of all, if you're not a designer, just build a really good website on Squarespace, Wix, or WordPress. Refresh your existing theme, pick something, kind of customize it, but just make it look really professional. Pick a company that's bigger than yours and kind of mimic how they look and feel, the pages they have, the content they have on their individual pages, so you have that bigger look to your company. It's the exact reiteration of Steve's comment of being the company you want to be, right? Next, so once you have that, start really thinking about the brand. Because before you really start getting into marketing, it's important to start building your brand. And that's such a generic thing to say, but think about it like this. You guys want to host the party. Okay, what does that mean? Go in and you want to be the person that people come into. You want to have the open houses. You want to host the marathon event for your town. You want people to come in and you want to host the fundraisers for an event that just happened or someone passed away and you want to raise money. You want to host the party and be the center, right? You know when you were in college and you went to a house party or something like that and there was like the one or two people that were clearly the funniest and they're just happening. That guy was like, yeah, that was me. So that's the person that you want to be. And that's so important because that's what a brand is. And there's a reason why someone pays $150 for a Supreme, backpack versus $20 at Walgreens for, a JanSport, right? It's because of brand. Buffer is a really great tool to be able to post content out very easily. You can download the app and you can post out to your LinkedIn, you can post out to Facebook, your Facebook page, your personal Facebook page, Twitter, and all that stuff. And you can keep scheduling it and make it super easy for you guys to be able to handle. Download it to your phone. And as you're going around the shop, don't think about what to create and like, oh man, what should I even post? Just think about documenting that process. And it really helps ease your mind as far as what I want to do. So document, what are you doing day to day? People are very interested in a print shop and behind the scenes. Go on, if someone's printing a shirt, here's how this works, right? Any information that can help your customers. So if you found a really cool tool, like we found a really cool marketing tool, we're showing our customers how to use that same thing. It's the exact same process and mentality. If you hired a really great sales rep and you have a couple tricks, it's awesome to be able to document that and put that on because your customers have the same exact problems too, and they'd love to see that, and that's the stuff that builds people to come in. Reviewer Pro is a great tool that was shared earlier. This helps post more positive reviews and also send you the negative feedback. So it kind of filters through those things and helps you to generate your online presence. Just like you look for a restaurant and you just discard it if it's a 3-star, people do the exact same things for your business. So they Google your name if they don't know of you or didn't get a friend recommendation, and they pull it up and they 2.5 stars. Like, it's judged within 3 seconds, right? So make sure to get that and keep building that up. MailChimp, awesome email marketing tool, super simple, but the hard part is consistency. Posting consistency, monthly newsletters to your customers. Use Zapier. Zapier.com is a really great tool to send from your shop management platform or your CRM out to MailChimp automatically, and you can automatically send out to all of those new subscribers your monthly newsletter. So that's super helpful. And you don't even have to talk about the shirts that you found helpful, remember? It's just stuff that you documented in that process that you're going through every single day. It's a mind shift of thinking like, oh, take a picture, grab this, or write this down. Oh, that's really helpful. Your customers will find that more helpful and you're building that brand. Intercom, if you want to take MailChimp up another level, Intercom is the tool to use. And what this does is it creates a little widget on your site that can create a conversation automatically and help generate and bring in leads off of your website, right? So designer tools are complete conversion killers on your website if you want to bring in more traffic. It causes friction, it causes issues. You want something simple. If you go to a shopping store and this door is locked and that door isn't, it causes friction, right? And you have to walk all the way over there. That's the same issue. And that's why you see most of your customers just go back and email you directly or text you that I need a reorder or whatever, because they just naturally go through. And that's why Amazon's truly won the e-commerce game so far. Is it's so simple to pull it up. I don't even think about Googling products. I just pull up that app. And then lastly, and also with Intercom, you can segment customers very well. So your corporate customers can go through this email campaign while your more retail customers go here, maybe schools and education go here, and you send them different information. And as you guys start to do this, you'll start to realize, okay, this is working. I need to bring on someone to delegate this off so they can own it and I can keep focusing. And that's how you're climbing up, right? Last one, ad roll. So you guys have always been to Amazon, you put something in your cart, right, and it follows you all the way around, right? And you're just like, God, I don't want to buy this. But that's retargeting advertising, and it works, okay? And it works really well. Potential customers just need to see your brand a few different times. They say 8, 10, throw out numbers, they don't know. But the point is they need to see your brand over and over and over, and that's what retargeting helps you to be able to do, because you can target somebody who went to your homepage, then clicked on your contact us page, and then left. And you can say, hey, want to reach out about custom shirts on Facebook? And then on Google Display, like they're Googling and they land on some random website that says, hey, did you know we've worked with over 1,000 customers this year? Another ad, right? So super, super powerful, very easy to set up. And that's on adroll.com, which is a really great tool to start using. If you're on Shopify, it's literally a one-click plugin. You could start doing that kind of stuff too.
So you've heard from marketing from a tech founder. Kind of crazy, right? Like seeing how Bruce has everything mapped together, and that's his input-output machine of all those different things to scale that software company. I kind of want to go through some marketing really like nailed down for our industry. I'll get a lot of people that will hit me up on the forums and Facebook and say, Steven, how do I do Google AdWords or Facebook marketing? And, my first question is like, are you ready for that? Right? They're like, I just want to put a design tool on my site so I can compete with Custom Ink. I have a design tool, I get, 6 a month, and there's for 6-piece orders, and they upload a PNG. I want to find really, really very simple things you guys can take away from marketing, specifically for our industry, because you don't have the marketing budget of Custom Ink, and those are not the customers that you want. And so it was really a big thing in my head where I'm like, okay, I'm going to really try to get into this industry. Custom Ink does it. Well, I don't have Super Bowl commercial money to market. Right? And my Google AdWords are not going to be better than Custom Ink's AdWords because they probably have 20 people in the room figuring out how to do Google AdWords, and I'm using Wikipedia. Okay? So in my head, I'm just like, I'm not going to beat that. Okay? My Facebook marketing is okay, but it's not going to compete with these giants out there where they're documenting every single pixel on my website and how I'm moving and all that stuff. And so before I decided to start Facebook marketing and doing Google AdWords and doing all that stuff, there were some very simple things that I decided to do. And I think the rationale is you can cast with a net, or you can become very one-to-one in your marketing, right? And so the story I have is actually 2 years ago at ISS, I came with Bruce for the first time, and I've been getting a lot of emails from Bruce, and everything says Bruce from Printavo, Bruce from Printavo, Bruce from Printavo. We didn't even know his last name. And people started coming up to the show and being like, oh my God, you're Bruce from Printavo. Oh my God, you're Bruce from Printavo. Because he was just sending in check-in emails, he was calling customers, he was just being the face of the business, and that's the one thing I'm telling everyone to do today is become the face of your business and the brand, right? Is you are the best brand and the best marketer for your business, and so become very one-to-one with that. What I mean by that is this. Can you find 10 customers a week to just email and say hello? 10 customers a week. That's my big thing. I have that on my whiteboard is, Steven, have you interacted with 10 customers a week that are current just to check in with them? The power of doing that is far more than any dollar you're going to spend in Google AdWords, because the next time that person needs shirts, they're going to be like, oh, awesome, I just talked to Steven last week. Yeah, we'll just work with them. No questions asked. Right? Who here runs a national, there's some companies in the room that ship shirts around the country, but are most screen printing shops local? Is that the general consensus? Then the power that you have is to be local, right? Everyone says, no, you can actually be local by being there, by calling those customers, right? By just shooting them a text, or, the power of handwritten notes and just sending, 5 thank you cards a week, right? If you send, 5 thank you cards and just check in with 10 customers a week, that is better than probably all the marketing combined that you'll spend on Google or Facebook or any of those things, right? And it's about consistency, right? If customers know that you care and you're on the front lines and you're interacting with them, like I love delivering shirts. It's actually one of my favorite things to do because I get FaceTime with my customers, okay? And I'll do that over printing any day, because I get to be on the ground floor, meeting with people, saying hello. And you as an owner, you have an influence. When it says owner behind your name, like you have an influence with your customers, and your customers will appreciate you so much more. So the power of like 10 a week or 5 a week, just getting out there is gonna be really, really, really helpful. The other thing is, like, before we start spending money on Facebook and Instagram, let's just start being consistent with it. So the argument that I make is most people that are ordering apparel are probably in the marketing department of their company or organization. They're probably the same people that are running the Facebook and the Instagram for their organization. There's not really a designated role for shirt orderer, right? It ends up being the creative person in the organization. So they have one job, and that's to order the shirts properly so they don't become idiots and get yelled at, but 2, to market and brand the organization, right? So what you can simply do is take a picture of it, post it on Instagram, tag the customer, and by doing that, you're helping their brand, right? It's sucking up to them inadvertently, and they're just gonna appreciate it and be like, oh, that's super nice. I'm just gonna share that and do my job even better. So we're lucky because we are helping a marketing company, or we're helping the marketing department help sell their brand or make their brand or tell their story. So by doing that consistently, and it comes down to 5 a week, can you highlight 5 businesses, groups, organizations, churches, schools, whatever, and just tag them, shoot them a message on Facebook and say, hey, thanks so much for working with you, posted this, I would love a reshare. And when they reshare it, boom, your marketing's done. Because everyone that went to that event follows that Facebook or Instagram account and say, oh, Campus Inc. or this company, they're the ones that did the printing, and we're just going to go to them, right? That simple marketing is going to work really, really well. The other thing is asking for reviews. So if you're ready to use a tool like Reviewer Pro, or Wootrix is a really good one, or Signpost is a really good one, if you're not ready to use one of those automated review softwares, just make sure you're asking for reviews consistently. So, the one thing I would recommend to do to any of your people that answer the phones or sell is to give them bonuses if they get good reviews. It's like when you go to Best Buy and they say, hey, would you be willing to take this survey? It'll only take you 5 minutes, you have a chance to win, and it'll help me out a little bit. Right? Who are incentivized their employees to get reviews, right? I love it if I see one of my students, and their name goes in one of the reviews and it's one of their customers. Like, how good does that look for my company, right? And so that's something you can consistently do, but more importantly, teach your sales staff to do is ask for reviews. And let's just put it this way, it is better to pay $5 for a review than to try to pay to get one down, because they are really hard. Once you get a bad review up on your site, you are going to go, you can spend a ton of money or beg and plead to get that review down, and it's better to incentivize your team to get those reviews. The other thing that I'd say to do is to have an iPhone, like an iPhone 7 around the press, and have your guys or girls that are printing just snap a picture of jobs as they look good, and save that to just like a Dropbox, so at least you have content, right? So if there's a cool print, just tell your production guy, okay, just snap pictures for me. And so then at the end of the week, you'll be like, oh, there's 15 or 20 pictures of orders we've done. And then whoever is doing your social media, maybe it's you can go on Buffer and schedule those out for the next 5 days, right? So it's generating content, maybe incentivizing your team to create content so that you don't necessarily have to do it yourself, but to get very one-to-one, very personal with your community. As Bruce said, you want to host the party or host the fundraiser. Like, to do that, you need to engage. And before you spend any money in marketing, start doing those few things first, right?
Customer service simplification. This, to me, is your competitive advantage. Really, really good customer service. And the reason it is because as much as it seems, what do you mean? Like, you just answer an email or you just respond to a phone call. If you do it very well and you do it very quickly for customers are shocked. I guarantee you. Respond to an email the second it pops up, right? And shoot it back to them. Half the time they're going to say something like, wait, wow, that was really fast. Yeah, and keep going. And so this as you continue to grow the business, becomes hard to do. It's hard to be able to answer things very fast and do the same things you could do when you were really small. And that's why companies will shift off and their customer service begins to be like a cost center instead of an asset to the company. Now, if you invest more in that and you invest in people and to help to still have a half hour or less response time, that'll continue to be an amazing customer service option. I mean, I think it's very similar, and we can see some larger companies that do that. Apple is a really great example, right? You go to a store, and if you're still under warranty, they don't even ask. They just, yep, I'll give you the phone, right? And that kind of mentality, I think, is what really sets you apart, and that's what we try to focus on very, very heavily as a competitive advantage, because when it was just me, and I was coding and sitting up in my bed at midnight working on things, when an email popped up, I sent it right back, and people will say, wow, you don't have all the features and stuff, but you really are there, and you're listening, and you're helping us really quickly, and that's what helped grow shop by shop and customer by customer. Now, there's some really great tools to be able to do this. We shifted off of a very common inbox. We used Gmail, of course, when we got started, to a tool called Zendesk. And the reason why is because we wanted to be able to assign these tickets and questions, keep track of missed calls, keep track of voicemails, and I couldn't measure that kind of information in a normal Gmail inbox. So I didn't know, is this core competency that I started off that I so heartily believe in actually being emphasized, 5 years down the road? Zendesk allowed us to be able to help measure some of that stuff. You can also do something like that with Intercom as well that I mentioned before. Now, these aren't cheap tools. I think it's something like $30, $40 a user per month. But again, core competency, and it's our differentiator from our competitors. So, you email somebody else and you may get a response that day, maybe not, it's going to go off. You're not going to talk to the founder. Like that's why we continue to maintain to be different. The last one that we do is a practice called TAR. This is thanks, acknowledge, and resolve. And we printed that out and we put that on and we talk about it as part of new hire training. And what that is every single customer that comes in, their question, we thank them for it. We acknowledge the issue or their question, and we resolve it for them. And so that repetitive process, we've actually kind of created email templates to make it easier. But, hi, John, thanks for writing in. It's awesome to hear from you. I know that you're looking for a status on your order, and here it is, right? And I think that helps create a very consistent communication back to the customer, again, building that strong brand and doing this long-term for us.
As far as this goes in the actual industry, I employ students across the country to sell, and when you put your business in the hands of 19 and 20-year-olds, sometimes you get interesting customer complaints. That being said, we work on that. We practice. A lot of the students text, and we actually, when we go to our training conventions, we actually train how to text a customer the right way, how to control the situation, how to ask the right questions, how, scripted, and it sounds silly, but like that practice is super important. And when we do it, with a 19-year-old, they end up doing it for the rest of their life. So it's interesting to see how many of your employees actually know, standard protocol when you're dealing with customers. What we don't want to talk about, but we'll quickly talk about, is accounting KPIs. So who here uses QuickBooks? FreshBooks, Zoho Books, whatever. Does anyone here use Bench.co? Bench? Bench is a full-service bookkeeping company. You pay $150 to $200 a month, and you have your own bookkeeper. They do everything for you. You literally data dump to them, and they handle everything for you. I tried doing the thing by myself, and it didn't work out. And my big point here is to find someone that can help you do this if this is not what you're good at, because it will drain you. Bench, they'll talk to you at any time. They'll prepare everything for year end and give it to your accountant. They'll streamline your revenue, your costs. And for me, it was just liberating to know that there was something out there that could do it quickly and easily. A little bit more expensive, but for the time and the mental just mindset, Bench was a no-brainer. If not that, make sure you use a good bookkeeping service, right? Whether you're doing cash accounting or accrual accounting, have someone that you can trust and call on, because if you don't know your numbers, that uncertainty is super dangerous and really stressful. right? And especially when we're starting up and we've got loans and different things and a lot of overhead, and we're buying stuff on net terms, like that's a little bit scary. And so knowing your balance sheets and understanding those things is going to be really, really relevant to you early on. There's a couple key performance indicators, KPIs, that we measure in our shop. Now, a lot of people try to calculate their cost per impression. I was not able to do that early on. Engineering background, love math and science. There were just way too many variables for me to scientifically calculate it. And so I decided to do something a little bit differently. What I measure in my shop on a month-to-month basis is my cost of goods sold. How much I spend on blank goods to how much my revenue is. Right? And I look at that number and I try to just have a bench line for where I want to be. Okay? For some shops, it might be 30%, 50%, 60%. But it was kind of this temperature gauge for how I'm pricing jobs. I understand that some jobs you're just going to make less on, and some jobs you're going to make a killing on, right? But we wanted to at least average our cost of goods sold and measure that month over month. Like, why in the summer are we 40% when in the winter we're 50% or whatever? Okay, sweaters are a little bit more expensive, whatever. We're not making as much on sweaters. Why? Right? And so measuring how much you spend on raw materials, cost of goods sold, divide that by your top revenue number is a percentage you should watch very, very closely. And it's really easy to do because we all buy from either S&S, Sanmar, or Alpha. So you just, you dump them in there, whether it's on a credit card, and you know that versus your sales. Once you have that number, you can look at how much sales you've done in a month, divided by how many working days, and you have an average for how much revenue you produce per day. Okay? So if it's $5,000 a day or $2,000 a day, there's got to be a number in your head that says, I just need to produce this much per day to be profitable, make money, and run, a clean business. So if you can look at that number per day while you divide it by 8 or 9 hours in a day, and you can literally figure out per hour how much your business is producing per hour. So we talk about this input-output machine. Now, some hours you're not going to get anything done because the guys have, screwed around on press or they can't register a job. Or some hours you're printing 700, 800 shirts an hour. You factor all that in and you have an average to show how much revenue per hour, per day. And then if you really want to parse it out, you could go per piece of equipment. So how much in embroidery, screen printing, autos, manuals, all that stuff. If you take that revenue and you have a percentage of your cost of goods sold, you can really start to calculate your profitability. So I look at how much I spend in raw materials, how much we spend in overhead to keep the business running without printing a thing, right? And then we take those percentages and there's your profit right there. So instead of getting down to how much emulsion is going to put on a screen, I looked at it as a bigger number and chunked them all together. My salespeople know their average job size. So, I know Bruce's average job size whenever he works with a customer is $1,000 per job. And, I'll tell him that every month so that he can see where he falls whenever he's working with a customer. And maybe he'll say, hey, Bruce, your average job size went up, it's $1,200 this month. Awesome job. Are you getting more sales out of the customer? Are you selling nicer items? Are they spending more money with you? Just that kind of little measurement right there. So those are the key KPIs that I measure. As you get more intense, you can start measuring cost per lead and, number of emails sent and all those different things. But those are really just good starting points. And because of that, we talked about customer service and measuring a lot of these things. Communication consistency within your shop. So the verbiage that you guys use in your shop should be documented. So if I do an exercise with my students when we talk about print locations and we say left chest, right sleeve, left sleeve, back tag, does everyone in your shop know verbiage? Do they know, is there a dictionary for your shop? Because if not, things will get lost in translation. If your shop uses Pantone colors, make sure everyone knows the Pantone Bible. Right? If your shop uses, Bears Navy and you have special names for ink, make sure your shop has that dictionary and everyone's on the same page with the wording you use. And as Bruce said earlier, spending that extra time up front to make sure there's no questions later, because if good information goes in, good shirt comes out. Happy customer. Right? The way we talk to our customers, the way we input information, the way our shop manages all the things going in there will make a happy customer and a happy product. And you as a result will be happier because your business will be running itself and everyone will be accountable to everything. That goes down all the way to approvals, right? How do approvals work in your shop? I've been demoing Printavo all day for shops, and I've learned shops do multiple approvals, 2 quote approvals, order approvals, 10 different ways to do approvals. Document that, have it on your website, have it on your email footer, so customers know how you guys do business, right? Go ahead, Bruce.
So iteration, your workflow, your process, your training, the way your management goes, nothing is changing. Your business is changing, it's growing, you have ups and downs. And just like that too, you have to go back and continually iterate on that business and workflow to continue to improve it. This is just it's a never-ending process. Some ways that we do it at Printavo is we will go in, we'll have one-on-ones with our team. About bi-weekly, we sit with everybody at the team for about 15, 20 minutes. And part of it is actually not asking about their things at work. It's just how's life, how's things going, what else is going on, and then how that integrates with their work. Okay, how's it going with this project, and getting more detail so that you can understand exactly what's happening, because you can't be obviously everywhere, right? And this is where you get really, really good ideas and become mind blown sometimes of wait a second, you're doing that and copying this into there every single time, every day? Or you're waiting for that computer to load like that for 2 minutes every time you click something. These are really, really interesting tidbits, and you say, why are you let me just go buy a new computer, and okay, perfect, now let's move on. And those are the kinds of things you'll be able to get out of that. The workflow, the retraining, just the mentality of never being stagnant and continuing to be better, and also bringing that onto your team is really, really important. And we push on very hard too. I mean, we are kind of half remote. We're a little bit different where we can be half remote and we're half in the office. But because our mentalities are always trying to improve, everybody suggests ideas that come up. And it's not just we listen to you and then nothing happens and it dies. I empower them to then iterate and do that. So, okay, you have that really good idea, what do you need? Do you want to buy this tool, or do you need a couple hours here to do that? And if it can help the business, absolutely let them do that. And I think that also helps them to feel a lot more valued because, I'm trusting them to build up a different program or a different way of collecting payment, or something very interesting. We actually switched our sales commission model from an individual commission model for our teams and our onboarding group to a team commission, a pool. And the first time they suggested that, and it was a guy who just started about a couple weeks before, I said, that sounds dumb. I can't measure if you're good or you're bad. How am I going to know if we need to replace you or this is not going to work? Or what if you're good but he's not, and then you get drained down, But I listened, and it took 5 minutes. And I read this really good blog post too. It's always take 5 minutes no matter what the idea is and think through it. And it worked really well for us. And the reason why is because the way we work with shops is we kind of ping pong a bit. Someone may be at a trade show and talking with a customer here, but then they might have worked with someone else over here. The customer service may have come over here, but then they came to this onboarding rep here. And it's a team sport, and we figured if we're going to be a team together, that we should all share and make it even that way. And then, of course, we called it prenuptial agreements, but essentially what it was is agreements to say, if you don't perform within half of what our normal sales goal and targets are, then you go back to individual and you're separated from the pool, where we can then spin them up and figure out what's going on to get them ramped back into the pool. So there's no questions, and it's all predetermined. There's no issues. Everybody's on the same page. And they did that. I didn't do very much except said, this sounds a little bit crazy. If you want to do it, you guys figure it out and just think about that kind of stuff. And then that was it. And they set up the full plan. They changed it over, and it's worked amazing because of just an idea that they had. So that was part of the iteration, and that's what I think is really, really important, which then gets in. Oh, wait, I'm skipping it.
No, it's all right. I was going to just comment on in your shop specifically, when mistakes happen, how you address them, right? Mistakes happen every single day, and you guys probably can make lists of the funny, weird things that happen in your shop, and the type of misprints and the spelling errors and the what you catch versus what you don't catch. But in the iterate side, we have this motto at Campus Inc., and it's with a couple of our people, as mistakes happen because of ignorance or ineptitude, okay? Either you completely ignored the rules and just decided to be ignorant to them, or you didn't understand how the system, and there was a break in the system, or how to use it, right? So it's either the system is broken or the people don't know how to use your system. So you can't get mad at a printer for messing up if you didn't have a system of rules. It's your fault. And that was the one thing I realized was like when a mistake was made, I could get mad at the person, but at the same time, it's like, Steven, it's really your fault. It's really your fault because you didn't have a system in place for them to follow. And we go back to the Jimmy John's model. It's like they know when to put avocado on the French roll, like every single time, right? And so I can't get upset with a printer that used, the wrong ink on a blended shirt because there wasn't a rule for 50-50 blends, right? And so, if the person doesn't know how to use your system, it's more training. Right? If they completely ignore your system, it's probably a respect issue. But more often than not, it's that the system is not facilitating their work. And it's not when things go right. I said this again. It's when things go wrong. How does your system fix itself? Right? How does your system course correct? Right? Like when we have an issue with fonts, who loves fonts? We'll get bad fonts all the time. And it'll hold up our art production. And my artist will just be like, I don't have the font, I can't find it, I searched for 2 hours. So instead, I built a button in Printavo, what we use, that triggers an email to the sales rep and the customer, showing them how to convert the font to outline or send us the font file. And that just made his life so much easier, and I didn't have to be hard on him because I built something that worked, right? So most of the time when a mistake happens, it's because there was a loophole in the system. And so as mistakes happen, use them as learning examples and teachable moments, right? Versus like these moments of reprimand, okay? And it's hard to do. It's hard to be like, why did that happen? Like I understand where they're coming from. I see it from their perspective. Is there a way to make it better? And I think it's far more rewarding to watch your employees succeed than to succeed yourself. Like it's very, very rewarding to see other people in your company enjoy what they do, enjoy creating a good product, right? Like everyone was here and maybe your shops were running on Friday. Like I got a text message on Friday in the afternoon from my production manager saying everything's great, awesome week, hope you enjoy the show. Made me feel pretty good, right? Versus this is, terrible and can't wait for you guys to come back or whatever. So that mindset is very important, and it goes to the last point,
which is extreme optimism. I think the bottom line to all of this and how all of this happens is your mindset of the long-term game in your personal and your professional life, and that comes from pure extreme optimism. I try to podcast tons of different shop owners and ask, what are you thinking about when you go through problems like that? Or like, tell me about the time where just the shit hit the wall and you just wanted to walk out. And they have, the ones that really make it and people adore and follow their brand have extreme optimism towards every single problem. So when something like that went down, it's an opportunity. It's not a mistake, it's an opportunity. How did we fix it? How do we retrain? How do I fix that so they can be successful and it doesn't happen again? And it's just really awesome to see some of these guys have that. And no matter what, then that filters down into their team as well. So if they're gone, again, they have that extreme optimism that, oh shoot, like we printed on the right instead of the left. Well, okay, let me call a customer. I'm going to chat with them. I'm going to get done. We'll fix the due date, and then we'll work on the order again. And that mindset just helps to be able to last and play the long, or what I say, the infinite game.
And, it comes down to kind of like a football team. They train for 6 days to play for 1. And they might lose, but if the coach goes in there and like beats them up and is down, like you have to reset and get going because you have the next week. And I think that's the mentality, is like every job that you guys produce is one step closer to like growing and scaling your business. And so that mindset is like, be happy in your struggles, because that is entrepreneurship. Right? That is the struggle. That's what we all signed up for. But your mindset in your shop can really trickle down to your employees. And if I'm having a bad day and I start messaging some students or whatever this, and I notice myself doing that, that can reflect on them. And what's their sphere of influence, right? Why do they want to work for me if I'm negative about something? And so oftentimes I'll catch myself and be like, Steven, if you're in a bad mood, get out of the shop. Like, don't affect others, because everyone's looking at you. I think that's the most important part is like there's a magnifying glass on you times 1,000,000. And if you're Buddy the Elf running around, they will be Buddy the Elf running around, right? In a good manner, right? But if you're happy and you're positive and you're going in and enjoying everyone's company, like they're going to be a pleasure to work with too. And they're going to be a happier employee and they're going to look up to you more. And they're going to work harder for you just out of that pure respect of extreme optimism. And that mental mindset of an entrepreneur, like one of the best books I recommend is The E-Myth Revisited. I don't know if anyone's read it or not, but it's all just about like stepping out of it, you know, holding yourself to a higher standard and creating something you believe in that you can scale and grow that others can see from the outside looking in. And so as we wrap up today, like hopefully you were able to get very, you know, like tactical things that you can take away and start doing tonight, tomorrow, Monday. The one thing I invite everyone to do is like our Facebook groups you know, if you're not in any of the Facebook groups, they're super powerful. We're always sharing ideas. We're always putting out new content. We're always trying to make it better, work with one another. Feel free to ever message me or Bruce. And we love chatting about this. And this industry is fascinating. It's very addictive. And you know, we're super excited that we're able to share this today. So we'll open up the floor to any questions that we have. I think we've got, you know, 5 or 10 minutes or so.
Yeah.
Can we get a copy of this slideshow from you guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they already like posted and recorded or something like that. We're recording everything, so we'll get this out to you. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So there's screen print marketing, there's screen printing pros, and then there's print.
Screen print, yeah, masterminds is really good.
Screen print masterminds, and then there's print gurus.
Screen printing gurus.
Screen printing gurus, and then that's enough. Are you sure I can keep going?
Your feed is now going to be
yeah.
screen printing.
And then there's a Printavo user group that we have that actually one of the customers made, and it's been super helpful too. So, cool. All right.
Awesome. Thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Thank you so much.